Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Crowdsource Commander. I am Chris Cornejo, your friendly neighborhood associate media producer here at Card Kingdom. And as voted on our Twitter account, we put up 4 options for new cards from Innistrad Crimson Vow, and the one that won, as you can see on the side there, is old Rutstein. So we're going to be building a deck I'm going to call Rutstein's Garbage Pile, because it's kind of what he likes to do. He likes throwing things into the graveyard. If you don't know the text of the card, if you can't read it right now or aren't looking, when Old Rutstein enters the battlefield or at the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. If a land card is milled this way, create a treasure token. If a creature card is milled this way, create a 1/1 green insect creature token, and if a non-creature non-land card is milled this way, create a blood token. So, Old Rutstein is all about creating tokens of minor value, and our job is to turn that minor value into major value, and slowly overwhelm our opponent and make me have to draw way too many infinite tokens that I am very bad at, and get some laughs out of that on stream. So, first off, the things we're going to start with are our theme, which I've kind of already done. It's self-mill garbage pile. We're going to be milling ourselves, we're going to be recycling stuff out of our graveyard, throwing stuff into our graveyard, playing cards that work from our graveyard, doing all kinds of things where we just create value just by putting stuff into our graveyard from our library. That is the main focus, that's what we're going to do, and it's eventually how we're going to win. Because there's no need to attack, is our first rule. We're going to be creating a lot of creatures. I'm planning on using them mostly defensively. We can use them to snipe out planeswalkers and things like that. If we can win by attacking, sure, but I'm not planning on a lot of these creature tokens living for too long, because they're going to get recycled and used in our value engines and whatnot. So, yeah, the plan is not to necessarily win through attacking. It's going to be other things we do that will eventually let us win. I don't know about Spider Swarm, like spider spawning, I'm assuming you're talking about. We'll see how many creatures we actually end up playing. Yeah, we'll see. Next rule, this is secretly an artifact deck. So all of the tokens that Old Rutstein creates, aside from the insects, so 2 of the tokens that Rutstein creates are artifacts. And we can do a lot of stuff with that, and we can create more artifact tokens. And so, yeah, this is secretly going to actually be an artifact-themed deck. It's just artifact tokens. We're going to have other tokens. We're going to make other stuff. But yeah, this is going to be an artifact deck, Disciple of the Vault style, like us sacking artifacts and doing things with our artifact tokens is what's actually going to win us the game. We aren't red, so no, like, Gear Per Aether Gate or whatever it is, where we can just tap artifacts to kill them, but there's plenty of stuff we can do otherwise. And our last rule, always our money limit that we have. We're going to be spending a maximum of $250 this time. Last time we had the unlimited one, so I could use, Tropical Island and things like that. We're going to be a little more limited this time. Yeah, that's it. No real reason, just felt like sometimes limits breed creativity, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so let's get into it. First thing we like to start with is our land base, or at least I always like to start with an idea of what my land base is. I always start building towards 38 lands, then we adjust up or down, depending on what we do. Last time we built a 50 land deck. I think this one isn't going to be that, it's probably closer to the 38. So starting out, this is Old Rutstein. He does like lands in his deck, just because milling them creates the treasure tokens. Yeah, so 38 sounds about right to me. I don't think we need a ton of lands to get going, just because 1, Old Rutstein is not a terribly expensive commander, and 2, we're getting so much value in creating treasures and doing that I don't think we overly need to worry about a lot of mana, but we'll figure it out. So we'll start out with Command Tower. It's just, if you're a multicolor commander, it's the best land. It's cheap, it's all the colors you need, it does whatever you want. Overgrown Tomb is a little expensive for a 250 limit, but we'll throw it in. It's searchable throughout a lot of different means. It's just good times. Undergrowth Stadium, if you do not have the cycle of lands from Battle Bond and you like playing Commander, I suggest picking them up whenever you see the prices dip at all. They are very useful. The only time they will ever come in tapped is if you are late game and it's down to you and one other person, and by that point you probably have enough lands anyway. No fetches this time, at least not the actual name fetches like this. We're on a bit of a budget. 28 bucks is over a tenth of it in one card, so needs to do a lot if we're going to do that sort of thing. Wastes, I'm not usually a fan of, like, the Wastes style cards, Llanowar Waste, those sort of things, where it's the pain lands. You can create a colorless or create a colored mana for dealing 1 damage to you. It's fine. I don't know that we need it. I'm not sure it's better than a basic for what the deck will end up doing. So for now, we're going to say no. Nurturing Peatland I usually don't mind, but I also don't need all of our other fetches that can grab stuff. No. Bayou would be nice, but again, that is over twice the limit of our deck by itself. Nodog. Woodland Cemetery, always a fan of this cycle of lands, the check lands. They're relatively cheap. They usually come in untapped. They're just pretty solid. Other than that, what do we got? Vista's a little too spendy. We don't need actual fetches. I'm still always hesitant to the filter lands. For some reason, they're probably fine. I don't know why I am always so hesitant of them. The Pathway I'll take. Pathway does good solid work. It's a little more spendy than I thought, I guess just because it's still in standard right now. Cavern, don't care. City of Brass, we don't need. Exotic Orchard. I don't know what everybody else is going to be playing yet. I'm always very hesitant of Exotic Orchard unless you're in like a 4 or 5 color deck. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like too much of a gamble to me. Tainted Wood is interesting. I think for the most part, it's very hard for me to imagine us not having some kind of swamp on board, so I'm fine with that. And the Temple, I've talked about this on other versions of the show, or other episodes of the show. If a land is going to enter tapped, it has to do a lot. The Temples are about the baseline for what sort of value you have to have in a land. Real quick, we're going to jump up over here to Utility Lands. If you're watching this, if you don't know, I use EDH Rec as a starting point for all this stuff, and then we spread out from there. Old Rutstein has not actually come out in paper yet, or in fact online. I think it comes out online today or tomorrow. Maybe the Cradle of Growth. Yeah, we'll see. Definitely not the Gaia's Cradle. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so Old Rutstein is a new card, hasn't actually released yet. So there's not actually a ton of stuff on EDH Rec, and given that I want to make this kind of more artifact themed, a lot of the stuff on EDH Rec doesn't actually point to that, so we're going to have to be fielding afar from what EDH Rec tells us are like the more played cards in this. So it's going to be a little more interesting than just scrolling through EDH Rec at some point, but we're just starting here, because it's fine. So Urborg and Yavimaya basically make our mana perfect once we play them. They are kind of spendy, and I don't know that we need them. Like, we're going to end up playing a decent amount of basics, I think. And we're going to have a bunch of other ways to just get lands and make our colors of mana. I don't think we actually need either of these. Ancient Tomb, I don't think we need that much acceleration. Like, Ancient Tomb is a land you play if you are a colorless deck, or if, like, the possibility of it being in your opening hand really unleashes your deck, and I don't think we need that in this one. Gaia's Cradle, no, it's $1,000. Good lord, it's $1,000. Juke Bog's definite yes. I like being able to mess with other people's graveyards. Like, it does enter tapped, but exiling a player's graveyard is definitely enough of an effect where, yeah, that makes up for the fact that it enters tapped. Field of Ruin, I'll throw in one of these. I might throw in a Ghost Quarter as well. So real quick, let's actually do some amount of actually adding stuff into our deck list, and we'll see what sort of stuff we end up with. So, I have this all laid out, and it's always very weird trying to click between everything all the time. Sorry. Alright, let's add all of those in. Save that, and then we'll switch over to our visual view. There we go. It worked. And we will refresh a couple of pages, and then I'm going to start adding in some lands that I know I'm going to want, but we're not on EDH Rec. Alright, so there's where we're at. We're already at $40 just going through that little bit of lands. We're at 11 lands, so we definitely have a ton of room for other stuff. So some of the things I am going to throw in, and I might need your help remembering their names because they aren't right in front of me. I like the cycling lands in these things. So it's Tranquil Thicket, and what is the black one? Because off the top of my head, I have no idea. I feel like I should know. Anyway. Tranquil Thicket. And then the black cycling land. Tell you what, let's go over to Card Kingdom real quick and we can figure that out. We'll get to the cards you see there in a second. Use the advanced search stuff just because I do not remember. Make the Oracle Tech cycling, the type of land. And mana production produces black mana. Apply. And that will give us Barrenmoor. That's the one I couldn't think of. Good call. Don't know why that was so hard for me to remember. So Barrenmoor goes in. I will throw in a Ghost Quarter just because. Any other black or green lands off the top of your head, chat, that you can think that I should throw into this deck? Utility stuff for the most part. Colored mana I'm not worried about. As it sits, we're going to be at 14 lands for now, so I have another 24 spots I can fill up. Do I want, like, a Fabled Passage or anything like that? How much are you? $6. Sure, we'll throw in a Fabled Passage. Why not? Oh, yeah, I can just search for, like, things that are the type forest. And swamp for the purposes of some of this. Oh, I still have Fabled Passage, which is not going to work. This is going to give me, like, all the basics? Yeah, it's going to give me way too many. Okay. What cards have land-type forest? Like, what are the other... I don't have them in front of me. I could do, like, the castles. Garenbrig doesn't really do a lot. Lochthwain might be good. Draw a card, then you lose life to the number of cards in your hand. I actually think we're not gonna have problems having cards in our hand. So Castle Lochthwain might not be ideal here. Dryad Arbor could be a thing. We don't have a ton of fetches. Manlands aren't a bad idea though. So like Hissing Quagmire is one of the premier defensive manlands. It's not that great at offense, but it does what it needs to do. So we'll throw that in there. Hissing Quagmire. I personally like, what is it, Crawling Barrens as a manland. It's colorless, but you can build it up over time without actually opening it up to creature removal, and then once you've cleared out everybody's hand and or the board's clear enough, then it can become a huge threat when you need it to. So I like those as manlands. Oh, we can do the other one, the ones from Forgotten Realms. So that's, I know it's the Hive Tyrant. What is it? Hive of the Eye Tyrant. There it is. Hive of the Eye Tyrant is fine. It does enter tapped if it's not one of the first two lands, but it has a decent effect. It's 3/3, which makes for a decent blocker. It also has Menace, and then you can exile a card whenever it attacks from the graveyard, not just exile a card. That would be insane. And then we have, what is it, Lair of the Hydra, I believe, is the green one. Yeah. And this one's good just because it scales up over time. I really like the manlands from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. I think they are all very good for what they do. Like, the white one is probably the worst one, surprise, surprise. And even that's pretty good. It's becomes a 3/4 dragon with flying, which isn't bad. I think the blue one is probably my favorite just because it's the 7/7 that has ward 3, so it's insane on defense, and also is just, once you clear out a board, just a pretty good beater. It requires your opponents to expend a lot of resources to get rid of. And then the red one, Den of the Bugbear, is just fantastic for what a red deck wants to do because it's 3/2. I think it's a goblin that when it attacks, it creates a 1/1 goblin that's also attacking. So it just creates a swarm slowly over time. Yeah, all of the man lands from Adventures in the Forgotten Realm are quite good. Anyway, so we have Hive the Eye Tyrant. We have the Lair. I think, did that get added in? Did I not add that yet? I will add that in. Lair of the Hydra, add card. There we go. What else? We want some of the commander ones, like Command Beacon, I think it is. Whew, excuse me. Put your commander into your hand with the command zone. So yeah, Command Beacon allows you basically a one-time, for each time you can recycle it out of your graveyard if you want, get around commander attacks, which can be very good. I think Command Beacon is one of those cards, especially if you are a deck that your engine is your commander. Like, your commander is not incidental to your deck wants to run off of whatever your commander does. I feel like Command Beacon is a little bit of a slept-on card, or at least I don't see it as much as I think I should. What else? I know what else I'm going to want. I'm going to want Buried Ruin. And where are we at now, lands-wise? That's up to 20, including 1 each basics, so we're getting there. I'm willing to throw in a decent amount of basics into this. We are green. We can do... It's Myriad Landscape, but the green one. The one that is not Myriad Landscape, the one that is a green activation cost. Crap. I've thrown this into so many decks and I can't remember what it is. Hold on. One moment. We're going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go into my decks on MTG Goldfish and look up one of the old decks that I know I've used this in. Did I use it in that deck? I don't remember. Let's see real quick. Oh god, this is the deck that had 50 lands. Okay. I mean, not a bad place to use it. I feel like I know this card, but I don't. It's on the tip of my tongue. I know that I know this, it's just not in my brain, the name. And I know I'm going to kick myself once I actually figure it out. Weirdly enough, it's not in the 50 land deck, even though you'd think it would be. Alright, was it in a token effort? It might be in a token effort. I'm going through old decks that I built for Commander Kingdom because I know I use this card a lot. Blighted Woodland, that's it. Blighted Woodland, it's a fantastic card. If you're a green deck, search your library for up to... So it comes in untapped, which is a big deal. Myriad Landscape enters tapped, and it has the same effect for roughly a smaller cost, but the fact is, with Blighted Woodland you can do it the turn it enters, or you can do it, like, you know, hold it up, use the mana if you need it, and then at your opponent's end step, you do it, get the thing. It's very good. I like Blighted Woodland a lot. The end of my dissertation there. Blighted Woodland, we already have, like, our ghost quarters and whatnot. So, what other lands do I think we're going to want in this deck? I know I've built green-black decks before. Let me just cheat and look at some of those land bases real quick. What was the first one I built? I built... Where is it? Beware the Dog, that's right. If you go to any of the Commander Kingdom videos on the Card Kingdom YouTube channel, in the video description we have all of the deck lists that everybody has ever used. If you actually click on the account that those deck lists are under, it's just my account that I made for Commander Kingdom. So all of the deck lists that we've ever seen on Commander Kingdom are on there, and they are a useful tool sometimes to go back and figure out, hey, what's a good card for this deck that I kind of forgot about? So going back through this one, we already have the pathway. A lot of these are obviously built very specifically for that commander. But you still get a good look at some older stuff. Some of these cards have either gone way up in price and or I did not have the same money limit that I had before. I think the Food Expired is another one I built that's green-black. I should go through and figure out what is the color combination I've built the most of. That one had both of the castles in it. I like Karn's Bastion a lot. I think I use it maybe too much. Could do like Mortuary Mire. It's a little slow. Does Oran Reef do Oran Reef's that one? Oh, Reliquary Tower. I can definitely see me ending up with a lot of cards in hand, especially because, spoiler alert, I'm going to be using cards like Life from the Loam. So, Reliquary Tower might not be bad. Yeah, we can do that. Reliquary Tower. Add that in. That will put me up to 22 lands, so if I add in... what is it? 16 more lands, so 8 each of our... 9 basics each seems pretty good. 9 swamps, 9 forests. We'll start there. We might add in more lands. Rutstein kind of reminds me of Waste Not a bit. Yeah, it's mill instead of discard, but it's every time you mill anything, you get something for it. So it's definitely just a big value engine style card. I likes me my value engines, so I'm certainly not complaining. Let's refresh these pages so you can see what I'm working with. Go back to the visual view. There's what we got. Let's... Why is it the deck editor that's showing up? That's weird. Hold on. Why is the card list showing up as that one? Interesting. Hold, please. Okay, why are you doing that? That is weird. There we go. Nope, that's the visual view. There we go. That's the right one. Alright, so our land base is done. We're at right around $56 as it stands right now. Not terrible for a land base. That gives us not quite $200 to still play around with for our actual cards. We aren't quite done with mana yet, though, as next we move on to our ramp and rocks. So let's get into that. Go back to EDH Rec real quick just to do that. What mana artifacts do we want? We do want some amount of artifacts just starting out in our deck for mana rocks and for other artifact-y value cards that we're going to have, so I'm fine throwing in a bunch. So like Soul Ring, Golgari Signet, Arcane Signet. Like if we throw in enough of these, or we end up having just enough mana and ways to make mana, we can actually shave some of those basics too, just so we have more room for other stuff. Soul Ring, Golgari Signet, Arcane Signet. I might also throw in some of the ones they don't have listed here right now. A lot of these people are building a very combo-y version of Old Rutstein, which I can see doing, but good lord. What is it? It's the other one that just taps for 1 colorless mana, or is Reliquary Tower, where you don't have a hand size anymore. Oh, good lord, it'll come to me. Oh, I should also clear this before I start adding cards. So Soul Ring, Golgari Signet, Arcane Signet, we all like. Let's start looking at various ramp bits. Thought Vessel, thank you. I will throw that into the deck list before I forget, since it's not going to show up in this thing. Do we need bigger or more rocks, though? Like, do we need to start going Thran Dynamo or Worn Power Stone style? I'm not opposed to it necessarily. We could also go like the talismans. Let's see what's up here. Like, what's going on with some of the other lands. Because some lands will end up being in like new cards and high synergy cards and some of the ramp and rocks too. Power Stone Dynamo will probably end up throwing in, but let's see what we end up here. So Deathcap Blade is one of the new ones from... Is it Midnight Hunt? I think they're all from Midnight Hunt. I don't know what that is. Strixhaven? I forget. It's this cycle of lands. I don't know what we're calling them, but like they enter untapped if you control 2 or more lands. They seem fantastic to me. Like they're just straight up good. I've played them in Standard. I've played them in Historic. I've played them in Commander. They're pretty solid. Yeah, Crimson Vow. That one is from Crimson Vow, so it is the cycle from these ones. Yeah, I will definitely throw it in. It's quite good. What else do we got? We're still kind of sticking with ramp and or rocks. Wild Growth, Utopia Sprawl, the dorks, I'm also not entirely sure how many I want or need. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what feels right, because the plan is almost not to have a bunch of them on board. They enter untapped as the third any time after the second land. So, yeah, like once you have 2 lands on board, any time past that in the game, they will enter untapped. It's the opposite of like the Scars Mirrodin lands, and I forget, when did they complete the cycle? I think it was in Kaladesh somewhere. But yeah, like Inspiring Vantage, all that entire cycle, Darkslick Shores, it's the opposite of those, where those had to be one of your first 3 lands to enter untapped. These enter untapped as long as they are your 3rd or later land. I've found in Constructed, like in Standard, they also work great as a first land, because for a lot of the time, you don't really have a turn 1 play if you aren't a super aggro deck, so play it as your first land, untap, and you have a dual land that works that way for the rest of the game. They're great. What else do we got? We're looking still for some amount of ramp. Like I said, I don't know about the mana dorks yet. Maybe? Deathrite could be interesting. Deathrite Shaman is one of those cards where I played Legacy right at the heart of the time when Deathrite came out, up through it getting banned, and it was just such a powerhouse in the format for that entire time that I was absolutely fine with it getting banned. Anywhere else I have ever tried to play it, it's mediocre at best. Like, this is probably the kind of deck that will most be able to take advantage of Deathrite Shaman. And, I don't know, it seems fine. Like, it's very dependent on what everybody else is playing, because I'll have plenty of stuff to eat out of my graveyard. Part of my plan is also recycling my graveyard a lot, though, so I don't necessarily want a ton of things to go away from it. Yeah, I think I skipped Deathrite Shaman, even though if I was ever going to play it in a deck, it seems like it'd be this one. That is unfortunate. We're still on Ramp and Rocks, though. Talisman is fine. I do like me a Talisman. It ramps you colorlessly, and then it's a pain if you want to do a color, but that you can usually work around that. So, sure, Talisman of Resistance. It's also one of the cheaper talismans. Some of the talismans are getting up to be about $10. It's not great. Mind Stone. I like Mind Stone. I'm a Mind Stone proponent. I can do Mind Stone. Throw that into the list before I forget about it. I will also just for now throw in Thran Dynamo and Worn Power Stone. And I think that will be enough rocks. If we're going to do any more ramp, it's going to be like spell-based for the most part. What else do we got? Skull Prophet I'll count as ramp, and it is like, so Skull Prophet is essentially built for this deck. Even though it didn't come out in this deck. Is that Dungeons and Dragons? I don't know. That's some deck that wasn't too long ago. Some mana symbol that wasn't too long ago. But yeah, Skull Prophet. Look how good it is for this deck. It ramps us into the colors we want. It's the kind of mana dwarf we want. And it also is self-mill, which is exactly what we want to do. So I'm fine with that. Don't worry about the rest of the cards you're seeing over there. Like, we're going to get to them soon. A lot of these cards are going in the decks. Right now I'm just focusing on the stuff that ramps us. That's all. Instants and sorceries. There might be stuff here. Harness Infinity seems hilarious later, but we'll get there. I don't know that I actually end up using it. Crop Rotation I like if we were a little more land-based. Like, the best thing... So Crop Rotation isn't exactly ramp unless we're playing lands like Cradle of Growth or something that can tap for a ton of mana by themselves. Where Crop Rotation is really good for us right now is... like if somebody else has a graveyard-based deck and they start to go off, we can, in response to something of theirs, crop rotate in a Bajuka Bog and blow up their thing. We can crop rotate for land destruction, like a Ghost Quarter if we need it. What else actually would come in, though? Like, what else would we really want to grab land-wise? I don't know. So it might not make the cut here. What else do we want as far as ramp? Yes, this seems good. You're spending 2 mana on rocks and just better to can't rampant growth style cards. Soul Ring, Thought Vessel, Mana Crypt are the only general mana rocks I put in green anymore. It depends on what you're doing. I have other things in mind that I can do with artifacts being on the field. So, like having, for example, like the Talisman, wherever it was, Talisman of Resilience. It'll ramp me in the early game, like it'll just provide whatever I need. It's also just an artifact on the battlefield, which will eventually have an amount of utility that it wouldn't otherwise. A lot of it's going to be sacrificing artifacts and doing stuff, and a lot of that's going to come from Old Rutstein and other cards we have, but just having little bits to get the engine going if I need it, like if Old Rutstein keeps getting removed or some other bits aren't quite there, having extra artifacts just lying around can kind of help me get started or get over a hump if somebody has some bit of interaction. So I don't mind having too many of those kind of artifacts at the start, because a lot of them are going to end up going away. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, these lands seem pretty good. So Balaged Recovery definitely seems like a good one for us. Ooh, what am I doing? I don't need to type that in, it's right here. Yeah, I think... So do we want any of the effects that are like Sky Shroud Claim or anything like that? Do we want a lot of spell-based ones? We're milling a ton of stuff, so I don't know how much of that we need. Oh, the other thing about having those artifacts is if we do end up milling them, I can think of more ways to get artifacts and stuff out of my graveyard, like having Buried Ruin and things like that, that work a little easier than like a Rampant Growth. I also like, yeah, Rampant Growth is good, and those kind of cards like Cultivate are good for us. The new green uncommon ramp spell from Crimson Vow. Which one is that? I know they're reprinting Splendid Reclamation. Is that the one you're talking about? Because that should definitely go in the deck. For those who don't know what Splendid Reclamation is, it's nuts. I will look up Cartographer Survey in a second. It is not uncommon, which makes sense because that card's bananas. But look at that. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. If we're milling stuff, Splendid Reclamation is insane. So, yes, Splendid Reclamation will go into the deck. And I will count it as ramp for this purpose. But first, the one you suggested, Cartographer's Survey. What do you do? Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put up to 2 land cards among them onto the battlefield tab, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Do we like that better than like a Sky Shroud Claim? Or a Cultivate, or any of that sort of thing? Like, it does put the cards onto the battlefield, which is nice. It is cheap, which is nice. But at the same time, we do have access to cards like Sky Shroud Claim if this will work. And there we go. Sky Shroud Claim isn't that expensive. Search your library for up to 2 forest cards, put them onto the battlefield, not tapped, then shuffle your library. So, Cartographer Survey gets us any 2 lands that are in our top 7, which is another thing. I might end up shaving this deck down to be like 36 lands, so top 7 isn't necessarily a guarantee we're going to hit a ton. Yeah, Sky Shroud Claim is pretty nuts. If I'm going to throw any ramp spell into my deck, it's probably Claim, so for now I will throw it in there. And I think I'll call that good, because we actually have a ton of mana after that. So if I go back to EDH Rec, copy the stuff that I put in here, which was a bunch of our rocks, 1 or 2 of the lands. Let's add that into the deck list and see where we end up. So adding all of that in, yeah, we're good. Okay, so let me refresh some of my other views of this deck so you can see what we're looking at now. So yeah, we end up here. So still respectable amount of money for the land base as far as not going over our limits or whatnot. Go away, football. Here is where we're at. Not bad. Budget's looking good. We have, like, everything on this list so far is our commander and or something to do with mana. We're at 52 cards. So even with the assumption that we are going to mill some amount of that away, we're definitely good. I am in fact going to immediately, looking at this, shave a couple of basics, which would put us down to, so we're at 39 lands at the moment. I think we can go down to 37 pretty easily and still be fully functional. So just shave basics out of there, which isn't going to change the price at all as far as whatchamacallit, Goldfish is concerned, the thing that is calculating our prices and whatnot right now. Yeah, not bad. Tireless Eternal. Do you mean Eternal Scourge? Is Tireless Eternal a different card? I thought about Eternal Scourge when I was like, so the way I go about this process of like Tireless Witness. Okay. What do you do, Tireless Witness? What? Tireless... There's no Eternal Witness? Don't worry, we're definitely going to play Eternal Witness. Like, it is too good in this kind of deck to not play. Yeah, Eternal Witness will end up going in. Timeless Witness. Now you're just throwing out different things. What was I going to say? The way I go about building these decks, like, I don't come too heavily pre-planned. I come up with the theme I want, 3 rules for it. I try not to look at EDH Rec beforehand. Like, the most I look at EDH Rec before I actually start the stream is I get it up and loaded and make sure like it's working in OBS where I'm streaming from. I do a quick scroll down just to like see basically the quantity, so I can tell like old Rutstein didn't have a ton of decks built for him. There's only 15 decks, other decks that people have built of old Rutstein across all of these places, websites, words. Because old Rutstein's so new, so like EDH Rec isn't going to have a ton of recommendations, and it's going to be not optimized, I guess, just because it's pulling from so few sources, so you're going to get stuff that is for a very specific build of old Rutstein, not stuff that's necessarily down the middle, which is good, I think, because it makes you have to be more, whatchamacallit, creative with it. Timeless Witness. Oh, that one, the MH2 Eternal Witness with Eternal Eyes. Yeah, I can, like, depends on how much it costs, but I can definitely see it going into the deck. Costs money-wise, not costs mana-wise. So yeah, I don't prepare too much for building these streams, so I'm kind of coming up with some of this on the fly. This particular deck, I knew I wanted to build around, like, token artifacts and taking advantage of token artifacts. There's a couple of cards I have in mind already, but yeah, like, I'm fairly flying by the seat of my pants. I don't know where I got off on that tangent for, but there was some reason for it. Draw and removal is kind of going to end up being a part of our theme when we get there. So we're just going to skip ahead to theme and start getting into the fun stuff. So there's a few cards I want to throw in at the start that I looked for on EDH Rec just to see if they were already there. So Timeless Witness, whatever it was. Timeless Witness, I am fully fine being in the deck. So yeah, like it costs one more on its front face, like for the first time, than Eternal Witness, but you can get it back out of the graveyard for a decent amount of mana, but it's Commander, we'll get there. Yeah. So Timeless Witness can definitely go into the deck. Let me get to the right spot, throw it in before I forget that it exists. Timeless Witness. There are, like I said, some cards I looked for on EDH Rec that I saw were not there that I wanted to throw in. For example, Idol of Oblivion. By itself, like the part where it becomes a token is meh. 8 mana, tap, sacrifice Idol of Oblivion, create a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. Like 10/10's great, it's big, but it has no evasion, it blocks a lot, it will eat a creature every time you swing it at somebody. But who really cares? More the point of Idol of Oblivion is that first thing, which is draw a card, activate this ability only if you created a token this turn. Once we get old Rutstein going, and even with some of the other cards that we're going to end up throwing in there, it is nearly impossible for us not to create a token. If not on our turn, then on other people's turns. So Idol of Oblivion is the secondly, hey, draw a card at least once a turn cycle. So that's going in the deck. Idol of Oblivion. Yes. What else do we got? So yeah, this is the most prep I've done for one of these streams. Is just I looked up cards I knew I wanted ahead of time. Do we have ways of protecting Rutstein? We will, or at least we can build that into the deck. Certainly. I don't have anything yet. Like Heroic Intervention is most likely going into the deck. We can do, what's the 1 mana one that gives your creature hexproof and a +1/+1 counter? I forget off the top of my head. But yes, we'll definitely get there. We are going to have ways of protecting Rutstein in the deck. We also have like Command Beacon and things like that, so even if he does die, I'm going to throw Snakeskin Veil into the deck real quick. Thank you for that. But yeah, so we have ways of getting Rutstein back out onto the battlefield pretty cheaply. You only get his token if you milled with his effect. I'm going to end up going somewhat hard into mill. Like, he mills himself. We have the one dude the Skull Prophet. I have a couple of other cards in mind that we can do the self-mill for. I have other things in mind for us getting tokens, Chatterfang being one of them, as you can see here, assuming I'm on the right view. I am on the right view. So yeah, Chatterfang. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrel tokens are created instead. I almost like Chatterfang more for the removal effect we're going to get with him, which is sacrifice X squirrels, target creature gets +X -X till end of turn. So this is, Chatterfang is going to be one of our main ways of just machine gunning down problematic creatures. I had at least some other stuff in mind. Oh, that is for a little later. All of these were me just searching for stuff that could work. Academy Manufactor. That is one I definitely want. It's mostly going to be the treasure with the cards we already have, like Old Rutstein and whatnot. If you would create a clue, food, or treasure token, instead create one of each. So, yeah, I'm down with that. Academy Manufactor. Ooh, that does actually lead me to another question. If we're going this hard into tokens and artifact tokens and whatnot, do we want Gilded Goose? Because Gilded Goose works with all of these cards we've been saying. I don't think I want the Secret Lair one, but yeah. So create a food token, and then we can sacrifice food. So it's a mana dork, essentially. It makes a food when it enters the battlefield. But it is a way of just, like, getting more value out of our Manufactor, our Chatterfang, our Idol of Oblivion, things like that. So yeah, Goose seems pretty good. So that's nice. What else we got? Shroud Claim we already did. This was our other search. So other things that I looked for was just dredge cards, because we are going to want to dredge things. The big payoff for dredge for us is Life from the Loam. The Provisioner, I believe, is in... You know what? Let's just do this. We're going to go through EDH Rec now for our theme cards, because a lot of the cards I think people are throwing up are actually on there. So let's go through this, we'll see what we get from here, and we'll go from there. Because I'm pretty sure the Provisioner you're talking about I saw on the list as I was scrolling through. Deadly Dispute, I'm definitely down with. We're going to have a ton of extra artifacts, and this makes a token by itself, draws us 2 cards, so yes, at instant speed, Deadly Dispute, I am perfectly fine with that. What do we want? Gold Caller's Harvest, create X play where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard rounded up. Again, cards like that are fine. I don't know how many straight up creatures we're actually going to end up running. If we end up running a ton, I'll go back and add them in, but I don't know off the top of my head. Diagraph Rebirth seems fine. It's a reanimate effect that can possibly cost less if we wipe the board or something else happens, or we just sack a ton of token creatures, which we can totally end up doing. It has flashback, gets us a card back, seems fine. By the same token, Dread Return. So these are ways not exactly of protecting Rutstein, but we can let Rutstein go to the graveyard and then just get him back a bunch of different ways. Sacrifice 3 creatures I like for the flashback, because one of the other cards we're going to end up throwing in is going to be like Blood Artist, because why wouldn't we? It seems real good with this deck. It's probably going to be our main win condition. Yeah. So what else do we got? Cards like Assassin's Trophy and stuff I'm fine with, but we'll kind of do that once we see how much room we have for things like that. Sir Conrad. Sir Conrad is a bit of a lightning rod, because people are very rightfully scared when Sir Conrad comes onto the board. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, it's not even my own, I am not going to Chain of Smog combo people. No. I try not to throw those kind of combos into my decks, especially for Commander Kingdom. If I'm building a deck just to play around a kitchen table, no, it's not for the internet, I guess, essentially, then I will throw in those kind of combos, because it's easy enough to just shuffle up again and play. For stream, I try to keep it a little under that kind of power level. I don't mind building powerful decks, but I don't want it to just crank off in a way that isn't terribly entertaining, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, so I might be talking myself out of Sir Conrad as I do this. Whenever another creature dies, there's put in graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves my graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. So for now, Sir Conrad can stay in, but it might be a little too much. We'll see. Finale Devastation isn't terrible. Culling Ritual isn't bad. Like, we're going to have a ton of those. Like, that will get rid of all of our tokens at once, which if we're doing... If we have a ton of them and we're, like, Blood Artisting and Disciple of the Vaulting, that can be quite insane. That gives your opponents another turn. Yeah, I'm not opposed to infinite combos, but we'll see what ends up having room for. I'm not banking on I must build all these infinite combos into the deck, I guess is the way to put it. We are going to want some amount of artifact enchantment removal. I don't know if Nature's Claim is the one, though. Viscera Seer isn't terrible. Having a sack outlet is good. Maybe? Maybe. Yeah, sure. We'll throw it in. What else do we got? We can do, like, Sakura Tribe Elder, but I don't know. It just seems kind of meh. Opposition Agent. No fun. I'd rather do the Void Walker. Zumi Thousand Eyes. Viscera Seer should go in all black decks that want a sacrifice outlet. It's a decent card, even in decks that aren't themed around that sort of thing, but I'm a big proponent of opportunity cost. What aren't you putting in your deck because you're putting this card into your deck? If you're some kind of other black themed deck that doesn't really care about creatures on your field, you can build colorless or creatureless black decks. Obviously, don't put Viscera Seer in it. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm against... I don't know that I'd say I'm against exactly, but I don't like it when too many cards end up being staples, I guess, because then all decks start feeling the samey. Like, I am in that camp of people who's kind of very meh when they printed Arcane Signet, just because it is the go-to default mana rock that you kind of have to put into any multicolor deck. Eternal Scourge, no. Like, all of these cards do things, but I don't think they're for the kind of deck we want. Nyx Weaver, on the other hand, is exactly what we want. Beginning of your upkeep, mill 2 cards. And then you can exile it to regrowth. Seems pretty good. Witherbloom Apprentice is a great, really good green-black card, but not for this deck. Blood Artist is one of our main win cons. Hornet Nest. Hornet Nest seems kind of meh to me. Like, I get why it can be a good card. I especially get it if you are the one controlling how much damage is done to it, or you have a way to ping it like every turn. But on its own, it seems very to me. Scoot Swarm's funny, but I don't know if it does anything else on theme other than just make a ton of stuff, which, by the way, is very good, but yeah, I don't know. Caustic Caterpillar, I would rather have Rexage for that kind of effect. Zulaport Cutthroat is a decent backup Blood Artist. The difference, if you don't know, Blood Artist triggers off of any creature dying, whereas Zulaport Cutthroat is only your own creatures. So Blood Artist is definitely the more effective card for what it does. Zulaport Cutthroat is a backup. Village Rites. I like the other one better that we already have in the deck. The one that also makes the treasure token. So fine, skipping that. We are not that combo-y. Cutthroat does not target, so it gets around hexproof opponents. That is true. Does Blood Artist? Oh, Blood Artist does target, so fair. Plumb the Forbidden can be good if we need to refill our hand in a pinch, and it's an instant. So yeah, like somebody's playing some sort of board wipe, we can Plumb the Forbidden, sack all of our creature tokens, and draw a bunch of cards. We do lose life, but we probably have ways of getting that life back because we're making a bunch of kinds of tokens, so I'm good with that. Entomb's no fun. Like, we're building a self-mill deck. Yeah, I don't know. Entomb just seems unsporting to me somehow in this kind of deck. You're going to get all your cards into your graveyard, just let them get there. Grizzly Salvage is not mill. Is it? Does that count as mill? No, because you're revealing the top 5 cards to your library. So the cards are going from your library to your graveyard. I'm just trying to think if that triggers Rutstein or not. Well, Rutstein only gives the triggers for his own thing, so that doesn't really matter. There's Chain of Smog. No. I do kind of want to throw in Gaia's Blessing, just as a one-of for that effect. Dead Bridge Chant. What do you do, Dead Bridge Chant? But yeah, I do want the Gaia's Blessing. Real quick, just to finish that thought. Because I want to be milling myself hard enough that it could be a problem of me milling myself out. So Gaia's Blessing just lets me endlessly mill myself, get all of the value out of that over and over and over again. It will occasionally mess up things like Dread Returning and things like that, but I'm kind of okay with that because it just makes the deck more... I want to think of the self-mill more as spinning a roulette wheel than at like a really calibrated sniper rifle or something like that. Like, I just want to be doing a ton of stuff. I don't necessarily know that the stuff is going to be horribly planned or pointed or precise. I just want to go big, I guess, is the philosophy I'm working off of this deck. Dead Bridge Chant. Enters the battlefield, mill 10 cards. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose a card at random from your graveyard. If it's a creature, put it onto the battlefield, otherwise put it into your hand. That's funny. I like that. Good call. Dead Bridge Chant. I remember this card getting previewed, and I remember thinking to myself, why? Like, it's just really weird. But that fits exactly into that philosophy I just said. So good call, Dredge for Life. We're going to go big and do random stuff. The random is going to be hard with that, but we'll figure it out. If nothing else, I'll just pull up a random number generator online and do it that way. We do want... Victimize I can see being pretty good. Toxic Deluge, I like just having some kind of get out of jail free, let's kill everything on board card. And I like Toxic Deluge better than like Damnation just because -X is a lot harder to get around than Destroy All Creatures. I have too many times played a, oh thank god I finally drew my Wrath, play a Wrath and somebody plays Heroic Intervention or all my creatures are indestructible this turn style card, and it just feels awful, so no. Mere Machinations, nah. Living Death can be funny, but again, I don't think we're playing huge swingy creatures. They're all kind of smaller value stuff. Does Life and Death do? Until the end of turn, all lands you control are 1/1 creatures that are still lands. That's dangerous. Death. Return target creature card from your graveyard to play. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. It's not awful. Let's see. For every young spider spawning, spawn in blood. There's Damnation, which we talked about. Utility artifacts. Phyrexian Altar and Ashnod's Altar are both very good. Skull Clamp I can see being more my speed in this deck. Yeah, let's do that. The other funny thing we're going to do I'll finish this and explain why Skull Clamp gets real funny. Anything that is like repeatable card draw like that. Basically, I'm going to play some number of dredge cards so we can just turbo through our deck if we need to. I'm not going to go all in on dredge stuff because that's not exactly what the deck is, but like if we get repeatable card draw, we can keep hitting dredge cards. If I have a discard outlet, which I don't know that I do really yet, we can just really speed through our deck in a funny way. Food chain. Exile stuff, like if we were green-blue, or like, this is where you would play Eternal Scourge. But I don't know what the payoff would be for me right now, so I'm gonna say no. Meat Hook Massacre is $40 just because it's in Standard, but it is another kind of Blood Artist style effect that's very good. So I'm gonna throw it in just because it is a fantastic finisher for us. But there is a chance that it ends up being too expensive if we end up going over budget, so we'll see if it ends up in there. Hey, more self-mill. Crawling Sensation. Put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Whenever one or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere for the first time each turn, make an insect. Not awful. I do like the self-mill bit of it, so maybe. It's just general reanimate style stuff. Binding of the Old Gods. It's good, isn't it? But is it that good? I'll throw it in just because there is a chance that Binding of the Old Gods is my favorite artwork in all of Magic. If you don't know why, that is not a painting for Binding the Old Gods over there. That is an actual wood carving that the artist made, and that is just a high-res photograph they took of it and cropped. That is incredible art. Grist. Do we want Grist? Yeah, no. Go look it up. Look up Binding the Old Gods. You can. Somebody did an article about it, or it was on Twitter or something. That is an actual woodcut carving that's actually pretty big that the artist did. It's nuts. Grist the Hunger Tide. As long as Grist the Hunger Tide isn't on the battlefield, it's 1/1 insect. Yep. Create a 1/1 black marine insect creature token, then mill a card. If an insect card was milled this way, put a loyalty counter on Grist and repeat this process. So, we're almost never in this deck going to hit that second part where if an insect card was milled this way, because we aren't milling multiple copies of Grist, and I don't think we're playing a ton of other straight-up insects. But it does do a little bit of the self-mill, makes more insects, which isn't bad. You may sack a creature. When you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Not bad. Each opponent loses life equal to the number of creature cards in my graveyard, which is not going to be a ton, so not bad, but not the best. And then we get into stuff we've already seen, right? Yeah. Utility lands, mana artifacts, and lands. So we've now gone through EDH Rec. I'm going to add all these cards into the deck. And we'll see where we end up after that. Alright, we still got a little bit of wiggle room here. Let me update stuff, and we'll go over to the view for that. Oop, that's the wrong one. To make this stream work, I have like 6 different Chrome windows open just so I have all the views I need. So sometimes it's a little unwieldy, but there is where... Oh, nope, you need to actually refresh. There we go. So, we're getting there. We're getting somewhere anyway. We are now officially too unwieldy for how I have this set up, so let's see if I can fix that real quick. Alright, this is going to be changing a filter I have on here. So the right, let's go to 250. Nope, a little more. 200. Maybe 180. That'll do. Alright, so let's see if I can make this fit. I don't know if it's going to fit all that cleanly. There we go. that's not awful. There's the visual view of the deck. As you can see over here in the card view, I'm adjusting down now. We're still decent on budget, even with like Meat Hook Massacre in there, so that's good. Yeah, we're getting there. We have a decent amount. Just really quick, making sure none of the things that hit my phone were important. Still a decent amount of wiggle room. We have 74 cards so far. I think we have a pretty good base of stuff going. I need a few more engine-y cards to really make the deck sing, I think. Massacre Girl is another sweeper. That is --, right? I think so, yeah. Let's look it up. Massacre Grill. Could do the worm, too. We're going to go through all the dredge cards in a minute, so hold on. Each other creature gets -1/-1. Whenever a creature dies this way, each other creature in Massacre Girl gets -1/-1. Yeah, I'm good with that. That seems potentially silly enough. Especially with the amount of tokens we get, that is effectively just a straight-up sweeper. Dredge stuff. Here we go. So, this is what you get if you go to cardkingdom.com, go to the advanced search, so Magic the Gathering, advanced search, am I in the right view? Yeah, so advanced search. Go to color identity. This is what you want if you're looking for commander cards. Hit your color identity. You can also add in colorless cards if you want. As far as I know, there are no colorless dredge cards other than Dakmor Salvage, but they already... Color identity takes care of that because it's tapping for black, so it's part of it. And then Oracle Text, Dredge. So these are all the green and black or green-black Dredge cards. Dakmor Salvage. It's fine. Let's see what other Dredge cards we end up with, just because Dakmor Salvage by itself, I don't know that I care. Well, I know I want at least one discard outlet for things, and finding ones for lands are actually not bad. I'm not going terribly big on squirrels. The squirrel stuff for Chatterfang is mostly because Chatterfang is a removal engine, and then having the squirrels there to sacrifice to other effects are pretty good. Noose Constrictor... Does Noose Constrictor double tokens? Doesn't that just double counters on things? Oh, discard a card. As a discard outlet. Oh, I was thinking the other one. Yeah. Tell you what, here's what we'll do. We'll figure out our discard. Yeah, figure out our discard outlet here. So, advanced search, green, black, and colorless stuff. We want the Oracle text of discard a card with the colon, so that is the cost. Let's see what that spits out for us. Oh, it's because I still have Noose Constrictor as the name. There you going? Did I hit you? There might be a ton, or it's searching through all of the database. It's going to take a second. Assuming that I hit the right thing. There we go. 300 results. Alright, let's go through this kind of quickly. Whenever it attacks, discard a card. Okay, so, yeah, I didn't pick up the colon, but that's fine. Whenever you discard a card, pay 2 life, discard a card. We want as little extra cost as we want. Scourge Familiar. Sure, these will pop up in that search, but let's figure it out. Flying, discard a card, add black. I like that more than I like the Noose Constrictor. Noose Constrictor just makes itself big, which isn't bad. That is 5 mana. Alright, one of those two are going to end up in here. But yeah, at most we want... Interesting. Bloodscorn Squire isn't terrible. Yeah, we want repeatable discard. All Initiate gains lifelink till end of turn. Who cares? 1, discard a card. The one with Black Vampire, and I pay them only once a turn. Boo. Regenerate. Meh. Chains of Mephistopheles. Let's do it. Only 2,000 bucks. Collect Brutality, not quite. I do know one thing we can do, which I want to do anyway, which is Trading Post. Well, you have access to cards that make blood tokens. The blood tokens have discard as part of the cost. That's right. So yeah, Rutstein does make blood tokens. I just want like 1 or 2 other outlets for that. So Trading Post is one. It's just not repeatable every turn. But yeah, so yeah, we are going to have access to blood tokens. I just want at least 1 or, like I said, 1 or 2 backup outlets to discard, so that I don't just have to rely on the blood tokens if people keep killing old Rutstein, which they very well might. Where was I? That was not there. Not there. Where'd it go? Oh my god. Okay, here we are. Court of Ambition. We got there. Discard, all these things. I mean, it's probably going to be one of the 2 y'all suggested already. What? You shouldn't be in there. Target opponent, discard a card. Generate. Discard at random. Gross. Generate itself. Like, a lot of them are going to be creatures that just do that. Scourge Familiar is probably the best bet for something that doesn't just make itself regenerate or bigger. Yeah. Stuff gains flying. Put a +1/+1 counter. Yeah, all this is kind of meh, isn't it? Discard, only activate it once each turn. Well, we're a third of the way through all the cards that fit this criteria. Noose Constrictor and Scourge Familiar should show up in these. A bunch of Jalem's Tomes. Key to the City. I remember that card. I remember it was okay. Library of Lang is kind of funny. If an effect causes you to discard a card, discard it, but you may put it. It's also a lot of money. I mean, there's $4 versions of it, so fine. Cop Waltz would actually not be the worst card for our deck, but meh. Mask of Memory, meh. Masticore, Medicine Bag. Equip, discard a card. We can just keep equipping Murderer's Axe over and over again to 2 creatures. Nephalia Academy. Oh, that's the one. It's like that. There's Noose Constrictor. End of turn, huh? Yeah, I'd rather do the Scourge Familiar if I'm going to do that. Noose Constrictor is great because it's only 2 mana. But Scourge Familiar is more overall useful. Gains flying. And reach. Reach is not bad. Pack Rat. Bunch of regenerate. Discard a card. Pest. Nah. See, I'm thinking Scourge Familiar is probably the winner, so good job Swampy Style for that, but just in case, go through the last 100 cards that it gave me. Poet's Quill, Possessed Portal, Putrid Imp. Putrid Imp is an enabler for old school dredge decks. Rotting Regisaur, a little too slow. Yeah, there's Scourge Familiar. The point of the discard is I want a repeatable discard outlet. It's not awful if we were playing more Vampire-y. So when we do get the dredge cards, and especially if we have Skull Clamp, we can just keep dredging and equipping Skull Clamp over and over again to just mill out our entire deck as much as we want. Which we could end up turning into a win con with Tergrid. So you play it as Tergrid's Lantern and just keep untapping it and making people discard or sacrifice stuff. So that is an option if you are building this deck. We have Trading Post in as a slower one. Put something on top of your deck when it dies. Yeah, we're going to go through all of the dredge cards in a second just to make sure which ones we want. So yeah, I'm thinking Scourge Familiar at this point. Yeah, let's go with Scourge Familiar. Add that in. And back to dredge stuff. Here we go. Dark Blast, not quite enough. -1/-1 can be useful, but no. Golgari Brown Scale was actually one I was thinking of, just because it does have incidental value by itself. We don't need to play it. Just doing dredge slowly gains us life back. Which, if we're doing stuff like the draw a card, lose a life card, and you can copy it for how many creatures you sacrifice, and just a bunch of other things, not bad if we can just end up gaining an incidental 10 to 50 life from looping Golgari Brown Scale as much as we want. So add that. I do want more than just one dredge card though, so we'll figure it out. Golgari Grave Troll is the poster child for dredge. It's the one that keeps getting banned in Modern and whatnot. Mostly because it plays good as a beater, but it's also the biggest dredge card, Dredge 6. But I don't know if we need that. Golgari Thug is a little easier, like they said. So Golgari Thug is probably it for the other dredge card, or at least one other dredge card. I'm just looking to see what else, if there is any other options. Oh, Life from the Loam. We definitely want Life from the Loam. Life from the Loam would be the reason to play also Dakmor Salvage, because we can just keep getting it back and keep dredging and get Life from the Loam back in our hand and all that sort of stuff. Life from the Loam by itself, pretty fantastic if we're self-milling and keep missing land drops. We can just loam back lands, dump them out of our hand, rinse and repeat. Necroplasm is pretty funny. The problem is it keeps wiping our board more than necessarily anybody else's. So first turn it's out, you wipe out all 0-cost creatures, then 1-cost creatures, 2-cost creatures, and so on and so forth until you eventually blow itself up. Nightmare Void, just discard one. Shambling Shells, not terrible because you can sack it. It's not great. Stinkweed Imp is the one with the spelled out weird, not exactly Death Touch. And that's it. So yeah, I'm thinking Golgari Thug. That gives us 3 dredge cards, which isn't bad, and we'll probably be able to find one of them one way or another as we're going. And you know what, we'll throw in Dakmor Salvage as well. So we can do some Life from the Loam sort of loopy things, which is funny to me. Yeah. Not bad. What does that put us up to after just going through dredge cards? That puts us up to 81, so we threw in some other stuff in there too. Next thing to look at is Flashback. What cards do we want to flashback? Because we're going to be dumping stuff in our graveyard. It is not bad by itself. Cabal Therapy, meh. A lot of these are just, like, make creatures. Like, Army of the Damned is make 13 2/2 black zombies, which is, don't get me wrong, good. It's 10 mana, though, to flash it back. 8 mana on its front side. Like, yeah. We can do things that are more interesting, I guess, maybe, or just more useful. We have one flashback spell already, the Reanimate one that's green-black. Chainer's Edict is not bad, but it's also not great in Commander. Chatter the Squirrel, we aren't going that deep into Squirrels. Creeping Renaissance could be a thing. Return all cards of the chosen type from your graveyard to your hand. It's very powerful. You kind of have to be themed. Like, we played it last week in my Land Simic deck, and it's pretty good there. I don't know how good it is in this deck. Deadly Allure. Diagraph Rebirth is the one we already have in the deck. Dread Return we already have in the deck. Dryad's Revival, like, the regrowth is not bad, but it's not fantastic. Blue Color's Harvest is meh. Knot of the Bone is a good utility card, but it's just life gain, and again, like, at the moment we have 15 creatures in the deck. We aren't going to be a huge creature deck. We'll have some, but not enough, I think, to make that worth it. Increasing Ambition is the tutor, which isn't, terrible or anything, but not the best. Splendid Reclamation does some stuff, a ton. Mono the Unhallowed Man. Moment's Peace can be funny. Just fogs out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere, because for flashing it back, they obviously know it's there. Parallel Evolution could be a thing. Just double all of our tokens. It doubles everybody's token. Which is not the worst thing in the world, presumably, but I also don't know that it's what we want. Just more stuff that makes creatures, which is fine, I guess. Except for the Bloodlines removal you can do. There's spider spawning. I don't think we have enough creatures in our deck to end up being a spider spawning deck. Second Harvest make the cut? I will look that up in a second, because I don't know. Storm the Festival's the thought, but you kind of got to build specifically around it. Like, Storm the Festival, at the moment, is a pretty nuts card in Standard, just because being able to put, like, in one of the decks I play in Standard right now, Lolth and Wrenn and 7 on the battlefield at once is pretty good for 6 mana, turns out. Tombfire, gross. Visions and Visions. Alright, Second Harvest. What is Second Harvest? For each token you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. It might. I'll throw it in there for now, just because I like the fact that that one is not symmetrical, which is nice. A couple of cards I do know that I want that we haven't actually gotten into the deck yet are some of the ways we're going to win. We have Blood Artist, which is great, but there's more. So a lot of the tokens we're making end up being artifacts, and a lot of them we can sack for free or for very low cost. So Disciple of the Vault. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may have target opponent lose 1 life. It is a very good win con. We can buy it back with some of our reanimate stuff. And we have a lot of ways to sacrifice a lot of tokens really quickly. We're making a bunch of treasure, things like that. So, yeah, Disciple of the Vault is a win con for us. We could do Vault of Whispers, Tree of Tales. I don't know that we're sacking the lands that often. Like, we can sack artifacts to various things, which those work. I don't know that we need a ton of those, though. We need to cut a few more lands, actually, just because we added in at least 1 or 2 lands since we've been doing stuff. The other one that I want to add in is the other artifact win con way of doing things, which is Marionette Master. This one, like Disciple of the Vault and Marionette Master, are cards that make people rightly scared when they come down on a commander table, so we need to kind of be in a position to win once we play them, otherwise people are going to kill us very hard, which is fine, that happens. But yeah, Marionette Master, fabricate 3, so you can either make 3 servos with it or put 3 1/1 counters on it. Our goal is probably going to be to put 3 1/1 counters on it to make it a 4/6. And then whenever an artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. So that means you get to essentially sacrifice 10 tokens and you get to take somebody from 40 to 0 once Marionette Master is on the battlefield. The way people have around that is if they have removal in their hand, you activate it, all the triggers go on the stack, and then they kill Marionette Master. Well, it has a power equal to 0 at that point, as far as the game is concerned, so yes. But we do want it in our deck because it is funny. Marionette Master. Add card. Save. Where does that put us? Well, let's look through some of these other searches that I had prepared. Real quick, we're at 84 cards at this point, just so everybody knows. What else? Retrace. So there aren't that many retrace cards in green or black, but it is something that we can definitely use if we want to. So what does Retrace do? Retrace, you may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. So it's essentially reusable flashback as long as you discard a land card, which is also where Dakmor Salvage gets funny. Probably the two most known cards for Retrace are Raven's Crime, which is good but not fantastic in Commander, just because your opponent gets to choose which card to discard. Why are we not blue for Mechanized Production? I know, right? We could do Revel in Riches if we want, but we'll get there. Let's look it up. So, yeah. Mechanized Production is definitely one way to win. Revel in Riches is the other. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, create a colorless treasure token. So, with Rutstein and Revel in Riches and some other cards we could throw in, Revel in Riches is definitely one of those win cons you can do in Commander, as long as you can survive till your next upkeep once it comes out. I don't know how I feel about it, just because you are setting up an endpoint for the game one way or the other once you play it, because either you kill everybody else, you manage to survive around everybody else's turn and win the game when it gets to your upkeep, so the game ends, or you play it, everybody immediately is like, well, that won't do, and they kill you. So one way or another, the game is over for you. If we end up with an extra spot and the budget for it, because as you can see it isn't necessarily the cheapest card ever anymore because it is a very good win con in Commander, we'll throw it in, but we'll see. Where was I? Oh yeah, Retrace. So Raven's Crime's decent one, but I don't think is fantastic in Commander. Savage Conceptions, just make a beast, which is meh. Target player loses 2 life, you gain 2 life, meh. Worm Harvest is actually the silliest one I can think of for us. It's 5 mana, but you put a 1/1 black and green worm creature token onto the battlefield for each land card in your graveyard. I have seen people do silly things with Worm Harvest. What was the other one? There's at least... I could have sworn there was one other. Isn't there one that just makes like 1 token a time? If I take out the color identity restriction, what is it going to show me for Retrace? More than 10 cards? Oh yeah, there's a bunch more. There's one card I'm thinking of that I've seen somebody use as a win con, and I hated them for it because I was judging the tournament they were doing it in. It can't have been Worm Harvest because it was a Pauper tournament. So what was it? What card am I thinking of? There's a card you can cast from your graveyard just over and over again. It wasn't Savage Conception. It was much dumber than that. I don't know that it matters. Good God. I know how to find it, but it's gonna be... Alright. Time for a quick history lesson. So we're gonna go to MTG Top 8. How does this even look on there? So back in the day when Mox boarding houses were running bigger events because, you know, pre-COVID and all that, we used to run a Pauper event in paper called Rags to Riches. And this is back when I was running tournaments, so I made sure that we posted all of our tournament result top deck lists for all of our competitive or semi-competitive stuff on MTG Top 8. So if you go back, you can search MTG Top 8 for Rags to Riches, and you'll find all of them. Some other people have done different events called Rags to Riches. That's just what we named our Pauper ones. But the person I am thinking of, and I hope he doesn't mind me putting his name out there like this, was Travis Orabla, who won at least some amount of Rags to Riches, as you can see, with some very, very dumb decks. And I'm trying to find the one I'm thinking of. I don't know that this matters at all. Is this it? Yes, this is the one where he played 66 main deck cards. Sprout Swarm was the card I'm thinking of. It's Buyback, that's why. It's not Retrace. Okay. Yeah, he won a Pauper tournament with Sprout Swarm essentially as his win condition, because if you look through the rest of this, there's not a lot of other stuff that actually wins you the game. Like, you can keep playing Capsize over and over again, which is its own win condition. But other than that, it's just a lot of control stuff. So his big win con was Evansar's Justice, to just keep doming everybody and clear the board over time, and Sprout Swarm to create, once a turn, maybe twice a turn once he got super late game, a 1/1 green Slapperling creature token, slowly remove everybody else's blockers, and just beat them to death. It was one of the more amazing control decks in a tournament that worked that I've ever seen. I hated him for it because all of his matches went to time, but he won all of those matches. Anyway, we aren't playing Sprout Swarm. That was just a little diversion because my memory was being bugged. Do we end up playing Worm Harvest is the question, and I don't know that we do. Maybe? Yeah, sure, why not? We have the space for it. Alright, Worm Harvest can go in. Alright, so we have a creature sack outlet, we have a discard outlet. We do need some sort of artifact sack outlet, and I can't think of a better one for our purposes. The Krark Clan Ironworks is $30, which is a decent amount of our remaining budget. Anybody else think of a better sacrifice and artifact outlet? The funny thing is, so with Krark Clan Ironworks and like sacrifice an artifact, add 2 mana to your mana pool, we're making a bunch of blood tokens and whatnot. So once we start doing that, we can start doing the rummaging with the blood tokens, doing our dredge thing, getting that whole engine going, and having mana to fuel it. So that's why I like the idea of Krark Clan Ironworks. Let's see what Throne of Geth does. Sacrifice an artifact, proliferate. I don't know about, like, we aren't putting a bunch of counters on things, so that's not it. And the big thing I want out of this artifact sack thing is we have trading post and things like that if we need to just sacrifice one at a time. Krark Clan Ironworks lets us sacrifice as many as we want because it doesn't require tapping to work. Yeah, so Krark Clan, I might at that point find a way of filtering that mana. Gotta spell it right. Krark Clan Ironworks, add card, update preview. Where are we at with what I have thrown in? Alright, we're not bad. We're at 226.38 for our budget so far. We're at 86 cards total. Yeah. So that's not awful. What else do I got here? Oh, this was me trying to find different sacrifice and artifact things. Don't know that I found anything that was fantastic. Oh, Ravenous Squirrel. What is it? Whenever you sacrifice an artifact or creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Ravenous Squirrel, which is fine, but it also has an outlet to sacrifice to... Let's just click on it. Okay. This has been showing up in some historic decks and some other places. 1 green/blue, sack an artifact or a creature, you gain 1 life and draw a card. So, certainly not the worst. We will incidentally be making this huge over time, and it only costs 1 mana, so I'm kind of inclined to throw it into the deck. I like this more than like Noose Constrictor. Obviously, they serve different purposes, as Noose Constrictor is a discard outlet, not like a sacrifice outlet of any kind. But I like this because the gain you get is permanent. Whenever you sacrifice stuff, it's +1/+1 counter. I added it in. We'll update the preview just to make sure that everything is reflected. Now 87 cards, so 13 more to go. Search library for a construct to be able to put it into your hand. This was a searching for discard outlet. Okay, yeah, so now we're kind of getting into different territory here. Don't think I found anything else that was leaping out at me great. Oh, Feign. Feign's an interesting one. Feign is another, if you have KCI, let's put in the Mirror Retriever, Dunk Driver, Chromatic Star, Scrap Trawler. Oh, that you just want to put in the full combo, don't you? I don't know if I want to go that mean. Plus, what else are we already running? No, I left out the Mox. Fair. First, I'll look into that. First, Feign. Chromatic Star is actually not a bad option, just because filtering. Anyway, Feign the Broker. It's another sack outlet for a bunch of stuff. With Krark Clan Ironworks, if we're making enough things, it actually ends up being somewhat infinite because you can untap Feign. So infinite might be a bit much, but we can do a lot with Feign in a single turn. So I like Feign. We're going to throw in Feign. Feign the Broker. Things like this that just give us a lot of options I am always a fan of. Not awful. Alright, so what is Mirror Retriever? I did say we're a secret artifact deck, so I'm not immediately opposed to all this. Return another artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Sure. That seems innocent enough, doesn't it? We are playing enough other artifacts where I'm kind of okay with this. I should, if we're doing that, look into some amount of removal as well. Especially artifact-based removal if I can. Mirror Retriever, then it was Junk Diver. Hello? Are you a thing? Is it Junk Diver? Oop. Junk Diver. Junk Divers put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return an artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. It's just another Mirror Retriever, essentially. Scrap Trawler was the one where you could go up or down in mana cost. Whenever Scrap Trawler and other artifact you control is put in the graveyard, return to artifact with lesser converted mana cost. Okay, so yeah, that's not awful for us. What are our artifacts? We've got like Skull Clamp, Soul Ring, Idle Mind Stone. Yeah, I guess the problem right now is we have some amount of artifacts, but most of the artifact stuff we're making is tokens, so Scrap Trawler doesn't do a ton. I mean, it does some amount, but there's not a lot of times we're going to be sacrificing non-token artifacts. Yeah, Mox Opal would be kind of dumb, wouldn't it? It's also puts us way over our limit. Do we want Scrap Trawler? Like, the Retrievers and everything feel more along the lines of stuff we can use. Feign Broker, Mirror Retriever. We're at 89 cards total. I need some amount of removal other than... So what do I have right now? I have Binding the Old Gods, the Meat Hook Massacre. I have... The trick with the whole thing was overpaying with the spell on the stack to put all the dice triggers on the stack such that they could target themselves with their triggers. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that combo being very technically complicated and not something that I think is necessarily great on a stream unless you are dedicated to just like, here is how this combo works. I'm going to play it in an MTGO league or something. I'm not sure I want that kind of combo in my deck. It's not intuitive. Yeah. It's a very strange combo. I remember I learned how it worked very technically at least once because I used to be a judge. I used to run tournaments and stuff, but it has all left my brain, and I don't know that I want it back in there. What do I have? I have Rex Sage for artifact and enchantment removal. I could use more of that. We do want Heroic Intervention, probably. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible, so yes, we definitely want that. We are now at the stage where I'm just filling out the deck list with random stuff I know will be good. Things that are role fillers. Technically works because of how mana abilities work when resolving spell, KCI being the mana ability. Yeah, it was a very unintuitive one that created a lot of feel-bads, I remember, just because the way it worked didn't seem like it should, and it felt like you were getting around the rules somehow, like if you weren't very deep into the rules. Heroic Intervention is not a cheap card, is it? Let me just make sure how we're doing on that budget. Alright, we're at 90 cards, we're at 237.04. It's not awful. I will throw... It was up there earlier, where was it? Tree of Tales and Vault of Whispers into the deck. Because we are going to be doing enough stuff with artifacts at this point that we can make that a thing. Where does that put us on our land count, though? Because I know we need to cut a couple. We're at 40 lands now. Got your 3 visits. Do I need 3 visits? Let's just, find a forest, put it onto the battlefield, shelf your library for $6. I don't know. We have a ton of other ramp and mana. I don't know that we really need 3 visits. We have the Vault of Whispers, we have that. P3K's Nature Lore, yes. What was I dumping? I was getting rid of at least 1 swamp, so down to 7 of each basic at this point. Which does put us back down to 90 cards total. Scrap Trawler's technically a little better if we have those artifact lands in there, but I'm not too worried about that. Removal and such. That's what I need. I want at least 1 artifact-based removal thing. Like, whatever that may be. Just something I can keep buying back with some of these other buyback removal or buyback artifact cards that I have. So, what do we got? Got type, artifact, oracle text, destroy target, because I don't really care what, I just need various things that destroy target things on an artifact. We have enough sweepers where I'm not terribly worried about that. When this creature enters, but I mean, we can do frickin' what's-its-face, and we will Meteor Golem. So when do you build a deck with Decimator, Web, Seedborn Muse, and Winding Clock, Voltaic Key, etc. as the win con? Once I am no longer worried about keeping our guests happy. we do have a bunch of guests on these things, and I want their experience. I'm playing to win. Like, I'm not playing just to be a spoiler or for, just to be a cannon fodder for them. But we do want them to come back. So, that's a thing. It has to be I know there's the capsules, like Executioner's Capsule, I think is the one. Sack Elf Replica, destroy target enchantment. It's not awful. Destroy target creature enchantment, but it's not in our colors. Executioner's Capsule, destroy target non-black creature. Tap 3 humans. Goblin Replica we can't use. Heartseeker's kind of silly. Hot Soup. Warhammer. Lux Cannon, super slow. Meteor Golem we just threw in the deck because it's very good at what it does. Make sure everything is up to date. Should be 91 cards now. Noxus Gear Hulk isn't the worst thing, but it's not fantastic either. Did I ever throw Tireless Provisioner in there? I did not. We should throw Tireless Provisioner in the deck real quick. Whenever a land enters battlefield under your control, create a food or a treasure. Yeah, we want that. Add that card in there. O-Stone. Good old wipe the board. Rocket launcher. Old cards are funny. Spine of Ishsaw is a thing. Yeah, we can actually Spine of Ishsaw. Why not? It is expensive, but since we do have a bunch of ways to sacrifice artifacts, it's not bad. Like, once we get to that stage of the game, it just means we get to keep taking out one problem permanent at least a turn, if not 2 or 3. Swords. I'm not a big fan of swords. Transmogrifying Wand is silly. Universal Solvent? Nope. We can do better. Unstable Obelisk. We can do better. Witchbane Orb. Witchbane Orb is one of those cards I do kind of like, but I would rather have the Aetherflux Reservoir. Dredge for Life, you like being... You are that person, aren't you? You are the... Let's pull out all of the big guns as fast as we can. I'm not saying that's a bad way to be, by the way, just whoa there. Alright, where are we at? We're at 93 cards. I think we're looking pretty good. We just need those last 7 cards to put us over the hump. So I need more we could do more permanent removal. Ways, we have Snakeskin Veil and Heroic Intervention. We have a bunch of different card draw. We have a bunch of engine-y elements. We have discard outlets. We have sack outlets, various kinds. What else do we need? We aren't doing bad. Real quick, just so everybody can see, I will update these pages. Everybody can see where we're at. Oh, I should actually save the deck if I'm going to do that, shouldn't I? Save that. Now we'll update this. We are getting pretty close on our budget too, as you can see. We're at $241.76. So, do have to start being a little picky. I am glad we've managed to throw in some of the higher cost cards that we have so far. There we go. So yeah, we're at, what, how many lands? 38 lands, which I still feel is about right. Especially for milling and doing stuff where we can get the lands back. That's not what I'm worried about. What else do we want? We have some sack outlets. We have like our Viscera Seer and whatnot, and some other things that can do a little slower sack outlets for creatures. We have sack outlets. Oh, we are a self-mill deck. We do have a bunch of things, but we can throw in a couple of more. like... I mean, we can just go straight up Millstone. Sign in Blood, Night's Whisper. We have a decent amount of card draw. Are there any Planeswalkers we want? Let's find that. Alright. Don't care there. We do want Planeswalker, and we want the color identity to be green, blue, and or colorless. Or green, blue. Green, black, and or colorless. What are my options? 51 options. Fraley's, weirdly enough, not the worst. Even though not exactly what our deck is built around. Garruk, Apex Predator. Garruk, Curse Huntsman. Destroy target creature, draw a card, create those things. Grist we already kind of looked at. Liliana, Death's... Liliana, Death's Majesty is actually a... So, Dredge for Life, we do have a $250 limit, and oh, you can't see it the way it's done right there. We are currently at 241, so Liliana the Veil is kind of a non-starter. Death's Majesty actually isn't awful for us. Oh, I should switch the view so you all can see what I'm looking at. Return target creature card, Obnix. Bunch of different Obnixes. Who can Vivian? Vivian's not awful. Just mostly looking for that removal bit. Vraska, old school Vraska. What's Flip Liliana at? We'll get there probably. Heretical Healer. Destroy target non-land permanent. Golgari Queen. Relic Seeker. Scheming Glory. Oh, weird. Didn't get there. What's Liliana? Heretical Healer at? What is Liliana Heretical Healer at? That was not all of the... a little too much. Nah, let's keep buzzing on the phone. Alright, so... How many spots do we have left? I was just looking at this. We have 7 more spots to go. I can throw back in another couple of basics just to make sure as we're self-milling and everything we have a bunch of fuel for those kind of things. Could do like Scrap Troller, 4 CMC Vraska's sack outlet if she's cheap enough. Oh yeah, I know which one you're spiking about. That was on here. Where are you at, Vraska? Not unseen. Golgari Queen, right? Gain 1 life, draw a card. I was thinking of the ones I see here, it would be Death's Majesty, actually. Liliana Death's Majesty, because you create a zombie, mill 2 cards. And then you can reanimate something for pretty cheap. Destroy all non-zombie creatures, so that one's not bad. I actually like that. We can throw in that Planeswalker. It's not the one people might think we would have. Liliana Death's Majesty. Add card. And it's pretty cheap. 6 more cards to go. What else do I need in this list? This list has come together surprisingly well. So I'm not upset at the way this has turned out at all. We could use we have a couple of decent mana dumps. We could use a filter. What is something that can filter colorless mana into colored mana without sacrificing itself? Signets, yeah, but there's some that are just like inactivated abilities too. Make a mana of any color. This is not going to be the way to word that, but whatever. Didn't think so. Artifact. Yeah. What is it? Add mana of any color? Is that the way you format cards? Let's see. Add 1 mana of any color. Did it already spit out no results? Okay. Or it's spitting out way too many results. Cascading Cataracts is the land is a thing. That's the tap. Alter. Arcane. How many results do we have? 244 is not as bad as I thought it would be. Arkham's Astrolabe. There's something I'm thinking of. Not Chromatic Lantern. There's an actual filter where you dump mana into it and it will put out mana of any color. But it's 2 mana to do it, which works fine for me with Clan Ironworks and some other things we have. Not Fragment, not Crawler, I don't think. I do like Ingot, but meh. Not Dragon's Horde. Felwar Stone. Mana Rocks used to be a lot different in the old days. Foreboding Statue, no. Lotus, Mana Silex. That's the tap one. Mana Prism, Mana Lith, Meteorite. All the Moxes. Not Mystic Skull, although that is a funny one. Not Prism. Phyrexian Altar is funny, but no. Not Pilipala. Pilipala could be funny, though. Prismatic is another one that taps. I swear there it is. Prismite. Who'd have thought Prismite would be the card I'm thinking of, but there it is. Prismite just lets us do sillier things with Clan Ironworks because it means every time we sack one of our token things for mana, we can turn it into a color of mana as opposed to 2 colorless mana. And we can do some sillier things there. Also, it costs next to nothing. And are all the tutors too expensive? There are some tutors that certainly aren't expensive. I philosophically am okay with a couple of tutors, but I don't want too many in the deck. Increasing ambition. How much are you increasing ambition? Yeah, sure. We can do that. Like I said, I'm fine with 1 or 2 tutors. I like using them more as like pulling a ripcord as opposed to I'm now going to win the game if I can help it. Like, oh, I'm going to get my sweeper now because you're going off. 4 more cards to go. We're almost there. Flashback gets 2 cards. Yeah, I like it. Certainly not bad. Do I want... What else do I want? We can do... The problem here now is more the budget than anything else, because I could just throw in things like Wormcoil Engine and whatnot just because, and it'd be good. You know what? We can throw in a couple of more outlets for things that are problems, like a Crow's Grip. Crow's Grip is always good. And not too spendy. I want one more thing that will let me recycle my graveyard if I need to, so we're going to be that guy. Put in Ewit. We have the Tireless Witness. I might put in Ewit as well. But sure, Elixir of Immortality, because I want to be that person. And we will do Eternal Witness. Which puts us up to 99 cards, and we have like 19 cents to go. Holy crap. This is as close as we have ever gotten to the budget. Green Warden of Marasa I think is going to be too expensive now to put into the deck because it's basically like a basic land we can put in, so that might just be it. I will figure out which color we are more of and do that, because yeah, wow. Yeah, so we have the Witness, which I like a little better than the Green Warden of Marasa in this case. Yeah, so I will just, let's eyeball this real quick. What? I don't need to eyeball it. We just hit save. We update some of these, and I can see which color we are more of, one way or another, and throw in an extra one of that. Where's the thing I'm looking for? I know somewhere on here there's like a deck stats thing, and I can never remember where it is. Stats, there we go. We are just slightly more black than we are green, so we throw in one more swamp. Go to 8 swamps, save the deck, and that should be 100, which it is. So let me just do my refreshing, and we'll go to the visual view. Here we have it, right under the budget at $249.81. There is our deck. Holy buckets. What are you doing? There we go. All right. So there's our deck. We got there just barely, budget-wise anyway. That is the closest I have ever gotten to actually exceeding a budget. That was nuts. I enjoyed that a lot. Thank you for joining me. This is the deck I'm going to be playing. It's going to be 3 weeks instead of 2, because 2 weeks would put us one day before Thanksgiving. So Commander Kingdom's actually going to be, for November, is going to be on December 1st. We'll have another one later in December, as it works out. And just so you all know what that game looks like, December 1st at 2 p.m., I will be playing with Olivia Gobert-Hicks, who has been our Card Kingdom resident Commander guest for the past few months, and will be for at least this month, and I think next month as well. Ben Ulmer from Loading, Writing, Run, and Bengineering, his own Twitch channel. He's a very good and fun person. And Sam from Ristic Studies, the guy who runs and creates all the videos for Ristic Studies, who, if you don't know that YouTube channel, holy crap, go check it out. They are some good medium to longish form, essentially mini documentaries on various Magic aspects. They are very well made and very well done. So go look at that. Anyway, again, thank you for joining me. This is our deck that we built. Rutstein's Garbage Pile. Here's what it is. Here's what it looks like. I think this is going to be a fun deck. I think the power level is there, but I think it's built in a way where it's a little more roulette-y than necessarily, like I said, like a sniper rifle earlier. So we aren't necessarily able to go all out super fast, but once we get rolling, I feel like we're going to be hard to stop. Thank you for building this with me. Thanks for hanging out. Please go take care of yourselves. Have a good day. Have a good week. And I'll see you back here in a few weeks for a Commander game playing this deck. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.